Hey, and welcome to Breaking Bread. It's hosted by me, CrunkChocolate. It's the show where we break verbal bread with a quote-unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponent. In 2025, we did move Breaking Bread, our match preview series, to Patreon, but today, it's a very special guest. Shout out to our amazing friends at FanFest Live, both us here at Shades of Blue and our PSG friends here. We work closely with FanFest. So where else would we do this? But if you're listening post on YouTube or podcasting apps, do the usual rate, review, 5 stars, say something nice, subscribe, thumbs up, all of those modern things that we have to say and do in these times. Appreciate you. Wonderful show for you today, discussing Manchester City traveling to the beautiful city of Paris for a hugely important match. City sit 22nd in the UCL rankings, PSG in 25th. The magic placement is 16th to face a play-in match. Top 8 means moving through safe and sound. Oh, I'm not sure if that's going to be possible for either of our sides. And this match on Wednesday, to be honest, neither can lose and expect, unless the final day is absolute chaos, which is what they wanted with this new format. But nobody better to talk to here than our guests. Shout out to PSG. You see those kits on them. Shady Gang, give it up. Show some love to Ed and Olivier. How's it going?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having us. As Ed mentioned, looking forward to our nice conversation. It's a do or die situation in 48 hours. We're for right now, it's just friends stuck one another, just so you guys know. We might have different jersey, but we have the same passion.
Yes, it's all love. And I mean, a lot of the times people try to pit our teams against each other, or put us in the same book, whereas we're teams with a lot of money. And and they're always just like, teams like you, Chelsea and PSG. It's just like, whoa, relax, so angry.
Yeah. We definitely are two of the most hated teams, I would say, in world football. Absolutely.
I'll take it.
I love it. Just embracing it. I'm here for it. Well, let's start here with something easy. And we'll start with you, Olivier. Why do you support PSG? What do you love about the club? What do you think is the best quality? This is your chance to kind of just fly the PSG flag.
Well, so good questions, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer that. I was born and raised in Paris, so I'm a kid from the city, right? So when I grew up, I had multiple opportunities. One is, supporting my local club, which I did, and I played for it, by the way, but also embrace and bring this, flavor or PSG flavor into my day-to-day. And of course, you have some friends that are supporting that club, and I'll try to get to know a little bit. And then I fall in love with the club and the infrastructure. I was lucky to live close to Saint-Germain. PSG stands for Paris Saint-Germain. So I was to live in Saint-Germain. So it was easy for me to go there and go to the training camp in the academy, and of course the professional group. Of course, I fall in love with David Ginola, Rai, Valdo. So back in the days, kind of players. Yes, I'm old. Sorry. And of course, I grew up, supporting that team. Although I guess half of the city of Paris is also full of Marseille supporter, which is fine. It was nice conversations when I was a kid. So again, I started very young, and again, after many years, I'm still supporting. So the reason why I'm saying that I was there before the money, and I'm still with money, right? So I have like 2 eras of being a fan of this club, and I enjoy this club so much because that's me. That's just me. My DNA is full of PG. My DNA is red and blue, my friend. That's all I can say.
I love the fact that well, I don't want to say love because then it means that I don't like the other. But being able to experience both sides, the pre and post money, that's an experience. I became a Man City fan in 2002 specifically because they were not great. I was flipping through the teams on FIFA, saw this other team, Manchester City. I was like, whoa, there's another team in Manchester. I love Sky Blue. Their kits were really great. And then I beat my friend down with Sean Goder and SWP. They were black players that I wasn't expecting on an English team. Like, it was just one of those things that kind of stuck in. And then just they've always done a great job at keeping incredibly talented players who, again, look like me. And I grew up playing rugby as well. So that kind of introduced me to sports that aren't popular here in the US. And I've just always been a big fan of taking in cultures as well. And just from there, every year and year, I would take the club more seriously. I'd watch it more and more. And then about 3 years ago, we haven't even hit 3 years yet. That's when I created Shades of Blue, the podcast. So yeah, we've been spreading the gospel of Manchester City pretty heavily for the last almost 3 years now. And it's been a wonderful experience. I have 3 other show bros who all have joined after me, but it's all like, they all have their different reasons, and it's post takeover. And so there's like a 2012, there's a 2015, and then I think there's like a 2016-17. So we've all been fans for a while, but still, post money, which they do get some crap for. And then once I mentioned 2002, that's when everyone's like, oh, okay, you're a real fan then. So like, I've definitely gotten myself into a lot of trouble telling people about themselves.
Yeah, it makes sense. And again, I think Manchester City and Manchester United, I know there are 2 teams in Manchester, which is kind of crazy to think about it. But, there are so many teams in the country, same in France and same in the other areas. By the way, there's 2, there are Inter Milan and AC Milan. So I guess it's not that crazy to have multiple teams in different countries or cities. And I've loved the fact that
Paris has 2 teams.
Yeah, more than 2. We have
more than 2,
FC, we have Red Star, we have many. So again, PSG is great, but I'd love to hear from Ed though, because Ed is also in the middle. And when did you become a fan, and why did you become a fan?
For sure, yeah. So not from, you could tell from my accent, not from Paris. So I'm in America, and I came to the club just visiting the city. You mentioned just the beautiful city of Paris, and when I went for the first time, I just fell in love with it. And I was already a football fan, but I didn't really have a team. And I just loved the city so much, the culture, the food, the people, everything. And so I thought, well, let me start doing a little bit of research. And then I was like, oh, PSG. And I've seen the logo. I knew it was Zlatan. This was around 2015, 2014, somewhere in there. And I was like, I really like Zlatan. He's like my kind of player. I love that, just kind of his enthusiasm and his charisma and scoring goals. I mean, he was a great player. And so I said, and then all my friends who were soccer fans, they were, Premier League. Everything was focused on Premier League. And I was like, let me go ahead and do something a little different. Kind of to your point, everyone maybe was a Manchester United fan. So they, you went City. So I was kind of the same thing. I said, I'm going to start following this team. And I thought, what better way to kind of just learn about the history of the club than to just start a little website, and I could write about it and do the research and learn about the history. And so that's what I did. I started psgtalk.com back in 2015, coming up on 10 years now. And I just been running that, doing podcasting and writing about the team. So I put the work in. I wasn't a long time fan. Like Ali, I wasn't born there, but I put the work in. I tried to learn as much as I can and share my thoughts about the team, and just been covering them ever since 2015. And I wouldn't change it. I love the club. I always say there's been a lot of ups and downs. Being a PSG fan is probably more difficult than people would imagine. They think, oh, you've got all this money, but boy, we've had some tough losses. Money does not always buy success, and we've been through the ringer. So, but like I said, I wouldn't change it for anything. I love being a fan of this club.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to you for, like I said, just being taken over by the beauty of the city, joining the fan, and just going all in. Because I mean, that's all you can really do when you become a fan. Well, there are plenty who just go, I'm a fan, and then they leave it at that. But for you to come in there, do the work, do the writing, trying to learn as much as you can, and that's what I wanted to do. And I did it on my own before I kind of realized there's a contingency of City fans because of the growth they tend to not appreciate U.S. fans just because we have helped change the club to maybe something that they don't entirely recognize. And you know, and I always feel instead of blaming, you know, the system or the people with the money and the power, we tend to blame the individual people who have nothing to do with it. And I've really tried to not go into that part, and I try to just explain, hey, yo, I just love the club just like you. I want to try to just enjoy the matches just like you. I don't want tickets to be more expensive. I don't want the average fan to be pushed out. And that's kind of been an interesting experience. And now that we've been here, we've done the work. So many of our friends now, I feel like we have an even split between listeners and that are American and non-American. And we take a lot of pride in that, because in order to get the non-Americans to listen, we obviously are making some sense. We're showing the respect, and that's what we always want to do.
I wonder if on my side, because I haven't had that pushback from longtime fans, unless Ali, you want to tell me something you haven't, but I think maybe because of the language barrier, a lot of, you know, core PSG longtime fans, you know, maybe they're not fluent in English, and so there's that little barrier. So I personally, I haven't had any of that pushback of, hey, we don't want you new fans or anything like that. And just in general, like just globally, there's not as many PSG fans as there would be for maybe a City or United or Arsenal or Real Madrid. So maybe they're just like, hey, we'll take whatever we can get. The more fans, the better.
Yeah, I can echo said. I agree. The one thing I'm gonna say though is there is 120 plus fan clubs worldwide for PSG. So PSG is also investing in terms of, you know, like density, populations, fans, supporters across the globe, I say. Reason being is we have a lot of South American players. We have some, you know, European players. We just had a very nice signing a couple of days ago. So everybody in Georgia will know about PSG very soon now, which is cool. But it's also great to have like a community like FanFest that can bring people together, a community like you know, PSG Talk that can bring the community together as well. It's cool to see that people with different language, different culture, different areas, different background that will come together to support one club. One club, it will be your number one, and perhaps you're gonna pay attention to any other championships, which is great, because it means that, as I said earlier, we might have a different jersey, but we have the same passion and love for the game of soccer or football, depending on where you're from. But once again, I love the fact that we all together behind this ball and supporting the either Man U or PSG.
Yeah.
Well said.
Okay. Before we delve deeper, you brought in a Georgian winger, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, who joined from Napoli in a shocking transfer, at least according to Antonio Conte. How do you see that player fitting into the squad?
Ooh.
Hey, I
don't know if we've quite figured that out. I mean, we'll get into a lot of this, but the thing with Luis Enrique is you really never know what he's thinking. I mean, the lineups change. He moves around the attack. Sometimes will go with a striker, but prefers a false nine. Kvaratskhelia, he prefers to be on the left wing. We've got a really good player there already in Bradley Barcola. So you think, oh, okay, let's move Barcola to the right wing. Problem with that is we have Ousmane Dembele, who's also a very good player. And so we have a collection of extremely talented wingers and really only two positions for several players. And so you start to think about, could you move Kvara to maybe does he play the false nine? I don't know how that's going to work out. They broke their transfer record for a January signing. So if they're bringing in a player like that, I can't imagine it's to create more problems. They must have a clear vision of where they want to play him, where they want to put Barcola. They have Desiree Doué is another signing. We went up against Bayern Munich to sign him. So he's a really talented player. Where does he go? And so right now, I don't know if I have a clear answer of where everyone goes. I think I would prefer to see Kvara on the left wing, Dembele stays on the right, and then maybe Doué or Barcola plays in the false nine. But then we have Gonzalo Ramos, who's a traditional striker who I hate to see sitting on the bench. So we've got a little bit of a problem in the attack. I'm curious to hear what Ali thinks about how this is all going to shake out.
Well, I'm super happy that we can actually, you know, it's always tricky to to have like a new player during the winter session, right? The winter trade is always a nightmare, I feel, because he's always another to the squad, but necessarily know if he's gonna fit the team. You haven't necessarily prepped or went through the preparation with the rest of the team. It's always tricky to bring another player during the winter transfer. However, having said that, I think there was conversations for the summer, transfer session where, he wanted to come to PSG like 6 months ago already. So I feel like there was conversations with the player and, the Luis Enrique's staff or Luis Enrique directly. So I'm actually confident to see Farah, coming into this motion. I do think he's going to be, a good addition to the team, especially to sort of compensate some of Barcola's flaws that we've seen recently. I'm not saying I'm not against Barcola. That's not what I'm saying, not at all. But again, if you have a player that is playing all games, you need him to rest a little bit. So going into this rotation of players, that would be cool. And Farah, I think he's coming with a nice resume. He's done with Napoli is kind of cool. So again, super happy with the new player. I think he's not going to play for Champions League tomorrow. The only chance for him to play for Champions League, if there is a chance, is to win against Man City tomorrow. So the next round he'll be able to qualify. PSG will be able to add 3 more players. And lucky enough, I think he's going to play against Reims during the League One Championship next weekend. But again, to answer your question, Crunk, super happy with the new signing.
Perfect. And and that's kind of what I thought. We'll definitely get more into the roster because I have a lot of thoughts about your squad and your roster. And let's move it to Luis Enrique, who's been at PSG, I think, like 2 seasons now? Almost 3. And he has managed basically nothing but historic football clubs: Roma, Celta, Barca, the Spanish national team, and now PSG. You mentioned how he doesn't seem to have a consistent vision, which I feel was his problem at the Spanish national team and why they kind of got rid of him. How do you feel about his time at PSG and what type of football does he like to play?
Yeah, I would say he definitely leans towards going with the false 9. He's one of the few managers that continue to play with that style, even though we have a really good young striker, as I mentioned before, Gonzalo Ramos.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, he likes possession. He likes his team to have the ball, a lot of passing. We have talented wingers, as I mentioned before, and so a lot of it just funnels out wide. And we don't have players who are tall in stature, so a lot of the crosses kind of go wasted. Set pieces, we not only can PSG not really convert them, but they also struggle really a lot in defending them. We saw that against Arsenal, who just ate us up on those set pieces. And so we are a team, I would say a more finesse team, possession-based team, and we struggled this season. I think Ali would agree. This season, we've really, especially in the Champions League, we've struggled to score goals. We've struggled when high-level teams apply pressure to us. We have certain players like João Neves who can, I think, dribble out of danger, who can create something out of nothing. But overall, we are struggling to score goals in the Champions League. And I think Luis Enrique, it's not that he's inconsistent. I think he's consistent, but he doesn't change when whatever he's doing isn't working. And I think that's maybe the frustration. But for me, overall, I would say I'm still happy with Luis Enrique. Some fans may be saying, oh, it's time for a change, but I like him. He does have a vision. I just wish in game he was a little bit more flexible when things aren't working out as he intended. Hopefully I said that right, Ali. What do you think?
Yeah, no, again, I think I will just, paraphrase what you said. I'm just going to add some flavor to it. In France, we love to hate people. So a lot of people will say, I'm so against Lucho's vision or Lucho's style or Lucho's management, just because, right? You want to be the coach. Well, be my guest, be the coach. But again, I think what I want to say is Lucho brought a mentality to the club. When a lot of people will be saying like, this is important, I don't know, I'm losing my English right now, but the the logo is important, right? And this is the most important. The jersey, the color of the jersey, the red and blue. That's number one. The rest, yeah, we can figure it out. You can bring another marketing manager. You can bring more players, but ultimately, the badge is what is the number one. And Lucho brought that with him. The mentality, the club, the fact that the training sessions are important, the video, sessions as well, all that made a lot of sense, and that's probably what we were lacking during most of the past 2 years, I want to say. And I think we made an investment in this kind of mentality. So we can discuss, the false nine. We can discuss the possession game. We can discuss the strategy. But I believe that what he brought to the team is a long-term vision, where now we can invest in youngsters, young players, and walk that project in 1, 2, 3, 5 seasons. It doesn't really matter. I love to see the long-term vision at PSG now, as opposed to let's sack the coach after a year or a year and a half. We all remember Thomas Tuchel was sacked for Christmas after a year and a half, and he won Champions League with Chelsea. I hated that. It was bad for PSG even, right? So, and then we had Pochettino, superstar, air quote superstar at Tottenham, but then zero at PSG. A lot of people hated him. I was part of this guy too. But again, and now he's going to coach the U.S. national team.
He's going
so
to
good luck
to World Cup glory, Ali. Come on.
Yeah, well, good luck to you guys now. But no, I mean, if you go back to Lucho, I think what I like about him, he's bringing that energy and level of professionalism that I like. And again, it's a long-term project. It would have been easy to say, well, PSG is struggling in Champions League, and regardless of the results in 48 hours, I still believe that Lucho will still be our coach regardless. When in different eras, perhaps we would have potentially, already considering other options, which I like about that. Now, false nine, 3 in a defense line, it doesn't really matter to me as long as there are results. And needless to say that we are, killing League One. We're the best. Now, Champions League is always something all fans had as in mind. We want Champions League so bad, but again, we are 50 years old club when we're also competing against, more, versed or more educated in a soccer lifestyle, clubs. I don't know, and please educate me. I don't know how old is Manchester City, but again, you guys are older than PSG. So again, out of all the teams playing Champions League, we just need to remind ourselves that we're still a young team. Yes, we had money. We built teams. We got some cool and superstar players, but give us time and potentially we'll get there.
Yeah, leading up to the year that City won the Champions League and even the seasons leading up to it, we seem to always kind of fall flat, whether it was like a brutal VAR call or just the team itself not being able to figure things out. Pep was always saying, hey, your people are trying to compare us to the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, who have this storied history in this competition. We are just children. We are just teenagers learning ourselves. And that's very much like y'all are. Y'all are in your infancy stage trying to figure things out. It definitely doesn't help when, like you mentioned, you're sacking managers after short success. And I mean, it leads kind of perfect to the next topic because of the fact that you're so dominant in your league, and that is kind of the conversation, is when you can kind of be relaxed in your league, it kind of makes it tough to then all of a sudden play in the Champions League, where it is the best of the best. Everyone is playing the hardest. It's an intensity that week after week you may not necessarily be playing with. PSG with their 12 league room titles, going for 4 in a row, winners of 10 of the last 12 seasons, leading the league currently with a 9-point lead, unbeaten after 18 matches, but that's expected from the French Giants. And before getting into the club form, I would be remiss to ask your thoughts on the whole Farmers League concept with everything. Like, are you familiar with the phrase? If so, do you think it's true? Do you fight against it? How do you feel about that when people say things like that?
Yeah, the Farmers League. How do we want to approach this? I would say initially I was like totally against it, and now when I look at PSG, I think that the French league is difficult, but it's different than the Premier League. There's a playing against teams who are sitting in that low block and breaking them down is difficult. In the Premier League, you've got maybe more talented players across every position, and maybe the pace of the game is a little bit faster, and that's difficult as well. So the French league, I think, is just as difficult, but just in a different way. You're trying to break down, 6, 7 defenders, 8 defenders sometimes. It's difficult for PSG, and then I think what the problem with PSG when they get in the Champions League is they have to completely switch what they're used to in the league and then go into the Champions League, and it's a whole different challenge that they don't see on a regular basis in the French league. So I think that is sort of what is keeping them from maybe reaching the top of the Champions League and winning it. Is just because they don't see that level. They don't play against Arsenal and the other Chelseas and Tottenhams. They don't play against those teams week in and week out. They do play against some of these French teams. You look at the table, Marseille away, Lens away is really difficult. It's hard to break down these teams that sit in the low block. So it's just difficult in a different way.
I'll put out of my 2 cents if you don't mind. I hate the expression Farmers League. Like, really, I hate it. The reason I hate it is, and again, I understand where it's coming from, but the reason why I hate it is you got to remember that we are a Premier League or Serie A or Bundesliga player provider, right? All or most our youngsters are from or wants to dream internationally. So all the youngsters will want to play for Premier League. So we're actually sourcing most of the club with our youth academies and all the academies worldwide, that all the clubs that want, they're going to grab or steal our young players for their own purpose and play with the youngsters. I'm going to remind you about Thierry Henry, Will Todd, and I know it's not Man City, but we had a lot of history with French players or French international players. Nicolas Anelka, you used to play for Man City. He came to this club, but he's not the only one. He's not the only reference, right? We have a lot of people playing for Premier League. So again, Farmers League, I hate that. Now, to echo what Ed said, yeah, we're still a young. People will come potentially to League One to retire or pre-retirement kind of thing. But come on, we are not Saudi Arabia. We're not MLS. And no offense to these 2 championships, but we're not at that level. We're probably top 5 in Europe, and PSG is probably top. Well, hard to say with what's happening right now, but let's say top 10, like from a brand perspective, right? So having said that, at least from a PSG standpoint, I hate people like talking about Farmers League for that particular reason.
No, and that's fair. I'm a big believer. One, you can only beat who's in front of you, and City especially. Well, we were not great for 2 months, and naturally you got to take all of the banter that comes with that. But we handled Salford, beat them down 8-0, and all people were saying was, oh, it's just who they are. They're a few divisions lower than us. That is who you're supposed to beat. But no other team beat a lower level club in that competition more than 4 goals, 5 goals. So we did 8, and we did it with academy players. Just won yesterday by 6. We're now starting to look like the club that we used to be, and that's brilliant. And I mean, I feel like it's just a sport. You're always going to have the haters and people who don't like them, and it's just part and parcel. I don't call it a Farmers League because, again, from my experience of just all the hate with City, I try to find different perspectives are a better way of putting it. And I love the physicality of Ligue 1. Like very physical. Like I feel like there's a lot of physicality in the Premier League, but it's in a like they let people play in Ligue 1. Like people will get knocked down and the ref is just like, get up. Where in the Premier League, if you sneeze on a player wrong, they fall and the whistle's blown. And I'm eternally thankful. Jeremy Doku, we brought him in. He's been wonderful from Ligue 1. We just got Kushanov from Lens. He's looking like an incredible player.
Talk about physicality. When he played against PSG, a whole side of his face was bloodied. He had a great performance against PSG.
Yes. And it's one of those things, I don't think the league gets enough credit for how the whole league does their scouting, where they just have gems. And you are correct. From PSG, players get pilfered all the time, but we're doing it ourselves from some of those mid-table, lower-table clubs in Ligue 1. We're taking their greats and adding them to our team. And if some of these clubs could afford to hold on to players for a little bit longer, maybe the league as a whole could grow and get bigger and more parity or whatever. But it's always interesting. And, I just had to ask it, especially again, when I don't get too many PSG fans to talk about this stuff.
It's also like, how do you define, sorry, just real quick, just like, how do you define Farmers League? Is it, because we win all the time? Well, look at the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich wins all the time. So, what is the definition of it? And you say European success, I put in the comments, look at the teams like Brest, Lille, and Monaco. They're doing better than PSG in the Champions League, and they've had some big wins. So, yeah, I think it's just something people do. It's just for the laughs and memes on social media. Oh, Farmers League. So I don't know. What were you gonna say, Ali?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I was looking at the number of French players who played for Man City, and I have a list in front of me, and it's I almost forgot half of the French players, like Benjamin Mendy, Gaël Clichy, Patrick Vieira, Nicolas Anelka, Samir Nasri, Bakary Sagna, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So again, I think the scouting, when they are coming to France to steal all these little talents, and you mentioned the two recent signings that you already had, I think that from an academy standpoint or from a coaching feeling standpoint, I think enough for Farmers League, at least not on this show.
Got you, and we can keep it moving too. Before I have you pick one attacker, midfielder, and defender who are in form, I would love to talk about the roster a little bit from two parts. The first is the young players on PSG that I really rate, and I could see the potential and where it could take them. Every one of these players, I would gladly welcome them to Manchester. Hakimi, Mendes, Zaire Emery, who I love that young player. Doué, like you just mentioned, Barcola, and even Xavi Simons, who's on loan. Big upside, huge upside on each of those players. Do you believe all of them will become the consistent world-class players you hope they are? Or maybe since y'all are watching these games weekly, maybe you're seeing some cracks in the armor that you hope might get figured out?
I'll take Xavi Simons. I don't think we'll ever see him in a PSG shirt. I think the summer he's going to be leaving. Unfortunately, I think all supporters would love for him to come back. We're not exactly sure why he doesn't want to be at PSG. Something happened behind the scenes. But he's been out on loan now 2 times. And, yeah, I think he has a lot of control in his contract. So, sadly, I think he'll be moving on. I'm like you. I love Warren Zaire Emery. I'm not wearing his shirt today, but my last PSG kid, I've got his. I'm a big fan of his. He's had a little bit of a down year, and he's still young, 18 years old. Yes. So I think you just got to stick with him. He's going to work it out. I love his physicality. He brings so much to this team that we need, and so I'm hoping against City he figures it out and has that performance that we all remember. But yeah, he's had a little bit of a down season, which I think he can turn it around. Ali, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, few actually. Yeah. So I'm with you on Xavi Simons. I don't think we'll ever see him wearing a PSG jersey anymore. Although he loves Paris, he loves music, he loves the city, he loves everything from Paris. Now coming back to Warren Zaire Emery, I think that was Pep who said, "Who's this kid?" when we played you like a couple of like maybe last year or like that kind of stuff. I was like, "Who's this kid?" And then sure enough, he celebrated played 100 games with PSG last
Wow.
weekend. 100
Wow.
games, 18 years old, as a professional player. So I think yes, he's probably a little gem, and we're very happy to have him with the club. And he's also part of Lucho's system. And we've seen him playing either right back or midfielder. It doesn't really matter. I think the fact that he can play a different position on the pitch means that Luis Enrique figure it out. He's the young kid. He knows, he is physical. He's smart. His passing is good. So I think he's probably one of the next name that we'll see in Europe. Now you mentioned Barcola. Love this player. Barcola is right there right now. He's one of the kids that I absolutely wanted to. Although he had like Mbappe, he was not necessarily for a few months. Now he's better. But Barcola is definitely a kid. Want to see this is the same, and I'm finish off with Hakimi. When Mbappe PSG, we all thought, oh, should Hakimi be the next leaving the club? No, it did not happen. He's in love with the city. He loves the city. He loves the club. He loves the attitude. Probably that's what also Lucho brought to the table. The mentality. He's a fighter. He's a co-captain now. So Hakimi renewed even his contract years now. So we want to, this youngster and it's funny to see Hakimi is still young. He's been with us for 2-3 seasons and performing. So to see staying a little bit and give fans a lot of emotions. The associations between him and Dembele, for me, is really one of the best PSG.
Yeah,
League of Talent. Yes, that's true.
yes.
Not Honors League.
And I in mentioning Dembele, it kind of moves perfectly to the next part of my questions. I feel like PSG, they have multiple players who have never really hit the expectations put on them from their previous clubs and fan bases, like Kimpembe, Marquinhos, Lucas Hernandez, Dembele, Asensio, and even Kolo Muani. All are great players who represent their national teams. However, I feel like there's something missing with each of them. Am I wrong to have that presumption? Is there something that I'm missing with these players?
I think with Lucas Hernandez, he had a pretty significant knee injury towards the end of last season, his second significant knee injury. And I think it's only normal to expect him to take a little bit of a step back. Again, he's not a super young player. He's been playing for a while. He's been playing for France for a while. And so with two significant knee injuries, I think, yeah, we're kind of expecting him to take a step back, which is why it's so important for PSG to sign Nuno Mendes to an extension and kind of sign some more defensive reinforcements, because we don't know if another injury is going to occur with him. So that's certainly a concern. I'm trying to remember who else. Oh, Randall Kolo Muani, you mentioned. That one is a really interesting. PSG, it was 95 million transfer fee from Frankfurt, and he came in. We had high hopes. This was a big signing. Really nothing. And I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was Luis Enrique, just didn't rate the player. But I think Ali could agree that that is a real head scratcher. It's a situation we've talked about on my show here on FanFest. I mean, it is something that we can't figure out why the team paid that kind of a transfer fee and really just kind of left him on the bench for the most part and didn't really give him a full opportunity to play. I mean, not even 2 full seasons. And now I think he's training with Juventus and just waiting for that loan deal to finalize. So he'll be loaned out in January and probably moved on in the summer. So very disappointing. What were some of the other players you mentioned? I can talk about them.
Yeah.
Kimpembe, I think was one.
Yeah. Yep.
Achilles injury. And he's a guy I know, Ali, myself, all PSG fans. If there's anyone who had like PSG DNA coursing through their veins, it's him. We all love him. We want him to come back. We want him to be world class. But just due to the injury that he had, he has been just fighting to get back just into training. And he's been able to do that. I think he's made a squad list recently, but hasn't been able to make that return. And I just think that injury it probably just took too much out of him. I don't know how much we could realistically expect from him. And I think long term, we're probably looking at a situation where maybe he runs out his contract and we keep him on as a, under 19 coach or something like that, some youth coach, because like I said, he is PSG through and through.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. So Ronald Kolomwani, it's sad because in many FanFest shows I've said a lot of good things about him and I wanted him to play. And surprisingly, I don't know if he has something against the coach or the coach has something against him, or there is a pictures involved somewhere. I don't know what's happening. But he's on loan, so sadly he's leaving. The good thing is he is now on loan, and the reason why I was happy for him to be in Paris is because he's from Paris, or Paris suburbs. He played in France before, in Nantes, before going in Germany. He wanted to come to PSG, and the sign that he sent to PSG and PSG supporters at the time that he was in Frankfurt and he didn't want to play for Frankfurt anymore. He stayed in an hotel room waiting for the contract to be signed or something, or the ink to dry, whatever it was. But he really wanted to come to Paris. So I'm surprised that he's not part of the starting 11, or he was not that useful to the club. So again, either there are some pictures somewhere, or something's happening with the coach. Maybe it was not the coach's decision, and ultimately he has the ultimate choice, or the ultimate decision. So I don't know. So sadly, he's leaving. Now, all the hopes are on Gonzalo Ramos as a pure 9. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. Hopefully, nobody's going to be injured, and hopefully, Gonzalo Ramos will not be injured, because otherwise we're going to go back to a false 9, which I don't necessarily like as a system, but that's just me. But hopefully we'll see in the next couple of weeks what's going to happen with that. Kipembe is a real TT. So TT is a player from the academy. He's been a captain in the academy. He's been a captain for the men team, or the professional team. He's been in the French national team. He's a true soldier. That's the kind of player you want on the pitch. I'm still struggling to understand why he's not back in the squad anymore. We had some Coupe de France, or the French Cup, recently. He could have played. I don't know what happened. And then over the weekend, he was not in the starting 11. I don't understand why. And of course, he's not part of the Champions League squad because he was injured. So question mark on Kipembe. For what was the other one? I think it was of course, Mr. Hernandez. Tough injuries, but again, if we put this injury aside, I think he's making his way back into the 11 slowly but surely. He played few games recently, and again, if I was talking about mentality, he has this mentality, like the Atletico Madrid mentality, if you see what I mean. He has the grinta. He is this kind of tough players, or that he wants the ball so bad, or he wants to be a defender, or the best defender so bad, that no matter what's going to happen, he's going to be a pit bull and good luck, right? So that's the kind of mentality and kind of players you want on the pitch, almost like a Walker. Although Walker might be or asked to leave the organization, but that's the kind of player that, everything for the badge, everything for the love of the sport, everything. So for me, Hernandez was a good signing, knowing that the injury issues, health issues, like a Tremar in a way. In this, I'm going to go there anyway. Sorry, scratch right. No, we're not going to talk about. But he was there. He's making his. So looking forward to see a good performances coming from him.
And yeah, the Kyle Walker situation, I even say that him putting himself up for transfer is his last bid as team captain. Right? He is aware that he's having a bad season. He's been getting awful from social media, just people DMing him saying horrendous things. He's been sharing some of the DMs that he's been getting, just like hateful, racist, like xenophobic, and a lot of the things that they're saying about him, it would be even offensive to City's ownership. Like it's just across the board, they're being offensive as City fans, and I just I don't know where we have gotten. I've just year after year with all the success, I've just slowly have been watching even like other podcasts are content creators, people who represent City from a media aspect. You kind of see them kind of turn and embrace uh, maybe the ugly side of the sport instead of finding the beauty in it. I always say that the reality is just as dramatic and more entertaining than anything we can make up. And so like sometimes I just love just taking things from an honest perspective and instead of like embellishing or being hyperbolic, because yeah, the life in itself is crazy enough to not have to force narratives. But I would like to keep moving because I don't want to hold you all for much longer.
And I didn't know that was going on with Kyle Walker, and
yeah,
that's awful. Yeah, I knew he had requested to leave, but I didn't know the blowback was like that. We got to be better as fans.
Yeah, and he's been with us and key reasons as to why we have won the Champions League year after year, of the Premier League, and 2 bad months. People basically have forgotten what he has done for the club, and it's like me as an American, I'm just like, I shouldn't be the ones being like, why are you not respecting history? Like I should not be the person doing that, but here I am. It's been wild. Okay, well, who do you feel is a forward, a midfielder, and a defender, which I do include the goalkeeper in there, who is in top form for PSG at the moment?
Ooh, that's a good one. Ali and I might have different thoughts on this one. I would go with, I'm going to go ahead and say Hakimi. He's probably been PSG's best player all season. We don't really have a backup for him. He got a little bit of a break here recently, just because we've been playing him so much. But I think anytime he's out there, he's contributing to the attack. He can get forward. His link-up play with Dembele can be really good at times, but he can also track back and cover that space that he leaves when he does get forward. So just both ends of the pitch, I think Hakimi's been playing amazing. I think he's probably a top 5 right back in the world, if not maybe higher up that list. He signed an extension. Ali mentioned that earlier, so we're thrilled to have him. I thought he might go join his buddy Mbappe at Real Madrid, but he's staying. He wants to be part of this project, and for me, he's the most in form. He's PSG's best player, and he's been the MVP, I would say, for this season.
Only one for you, Ed?
Yeah, I'll just go with the one.
Okay, just one. Okay, all right. I have a few though. So excuse the fact that I'm going to bring a few, and just for the sake of this conversation, because of course Hakimi sounds obvious, and I agree 100% with what you just said. So I'm going to pick a few others. I would say Dembele. Dembele, since the past couple of days, he's been scoring few goals, that important goals recently. So it's almost like a hot and cold kind of water with Dembele. I think right now we're okay with the fact that he can score at least 2 goals per game. He was not playing against Lens over the weekend due to flu or something. But again, when he's on the pitch, it's always good. And I guess the association between him and Hakimi, I think is probably the secret weapon that we have, and a known secret weapon that we might have to pull off tomorrow. The other player I was thinking of would be a recent signing of ours, João Neves, who was very instrumental in numbers of assists for the club. Came from Portugal, and almost like he was a nobody, and then came to Paris, and now it's like everybody's watching what he's doing. So from an assist standpoint, great to have him playing as a midfielder, or like the modern midfielder that we have. And of course, I'm gonna go with his Portuguese friend, Vitinha. Vitinha has been a long time, standing with PSG, 2 seasons and a half where he's been performing. So I'm actually super happy with that. And the last one I'm gonna say and talk about would be Pacho. Pacho was in nobody's radar, at least not mine, when we signed him for the last transfer period, and he's been nothing but very, very cool from a defense perspective. I would have bet on him. And he proved me wrong. So Pacho, Vitinha, Neves, and Dembele will be my top players right now.
And with Pacho, that was a signing. It was like there were all these other rumors. There was nothing about Pacho at all. And then all of a sudden it was like it came out, and then the next day you see him holding a jersey. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. And like Ali said, it's like no one really expected him to step into the team and be a regular starter and arguably PSG's best defender, but that's exactly what he's done. And he's just very quiet. He's understated. He goes out there very businesslike, and you don't really shout his name during matches because he just gets the job done. He doesn't make any critical mistakes or anything like that. He's about as solid as the center back that you could ever ask for. And he just came out of nowhere, and we love him. He's been playing wonderfully.
João Neves was City fans were really hoping we were going to be able to grab him, but you could definitely tell that he not only did he want the playing time, he also very, very much wanted to be paid decently. And I respect, my big thing is get the bag. Like if there is somebody who will pay you better and that works for you, like go for that. And he definitely, I know Pep was like, hey, you're going to come here, you're going to play, but you're going to have to work hard to get this consistent. Because I mean, we have that problem with Rico Lewis, who we've been using as a right back, but this year he's been found out. It's his lack of height and all that other stuff has just been a real problem. But him in midfield, amazing, incredible. And it's one of those things, once, I hate to say it, KDB, Gundo, Kovacic, those players can kind of get out of the way. Rico Lewis will be able to move into the midfield. But until then, he's not really going to stand a chance to get consistent playing time. And yeah, it's always been very interesting. And
we've got a nice Portuguese connection going on with Nuno Mendes and João Neves and Gonzalo Ramos. These are guys that play on the Portugal national team, and they kind of come together, and they're really important to what PSG are doing. And just real quick with João Neves, it's interesting. He's usually one of the smallest, the shortest players on the pitch, but somehow for PSG, he can get on the end of corners and headers. He just has a way of like finding the space and can just, out-leap people. And it's just funny that he's the smallest player, and he's probably our biggest aerial threat.
wow. Okay, that is good to know. I'm gonna.
So if he scores a header on Wednesday, you've heard it here first.
Oh gosh. Well, and when you're talking about the false nine problems and sending crosses into too short people, before we brought Haaland in, that was a problem. Pep was doing a lot of false nine, and we're just spamming crosses in. We're just like hitting cross when nobody really stood a chance. And now that we have Haaland, you would think we would do more crosses, but we don't. It's a lot of like through balls, trying to fit them in, tight angles. Yes, we do the crosses, but they're not the traditional like on the sidelines, hit them in. They're a lot of the like early crosses, so we can hopefully catch some defender off and things like that. Yeah.
I got a question for you just real quick. Do you think PSG will test the Erling Haaland's release clause in 2029?
I mean, do they have like $500 million to give for Erling Haaland? If they have it, then sure.
I don't think money would be an issue. Yeah, so they probably, I mean, they paid, what is it, 222 million for Neymar. So is that what the buyout clause, is that what it's being reported at?
Honestly, I don't know what it's reported at. I would assume it would be that, because
substantial.
250, you would pay it. 300 million for Erling Haaland, you would pay it. It has to be a price that is like, okay, you must really want him. If you're going to pay us 500 million and then pay Haaland whatever you're going to have to pay, because with his new extension, he already was making 350,000 a match, and that was just the base pay. He was getting bonuses for goals and attendance. He was basically making $1 million a match already. So it's like now he has to be making more than that if he's going to leave City for PSG. So if you guys want to pay that, you would have to pay him more than you ever did Neymar, more than you'd ever pay Messi. So like if that's something y'all want to do, sure, I'm perfectly okay with him leaving. In 4 years, he would be in his prime. I would like to believe we've won another Champions League and a few more Premier Leagues. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, take the money. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. And he just had some really nice things to say about PSG recently, just saying that they're a big club and they'll always attract big players. So I don't know. I got a little excited, and then he signed the extension, and I was like, oh, there's a buyout. So I was just wondering if maybe PSG will explore that. If this whole like rebuilding with younger players thing doesn't work out, if they'll just revert to, you know what, let's just throw money at the best players.
All right, we have a lot of money.
That's right. Let's just buy this thing.
Yeah, and again, I would hate to lose a player of Haaland's ability, but of course, when stupid money like that comes at you, like you'd be silly to say no. And again, if he wants to do it, Pep has done a very good job at instilling in our brains, if a player wants to leave, let them go. And we've seen on many teams, especially in the Premier League, where a key player wants to leave and they do their thing to kind of hold on to him, and the team struggles from there. Paulina on Fulham, he's notoriously he was all the way in Bayern doing the physical, about to take the photo when things fell apart and Fulham forced him back. And so he's been playing with the team, and every single, I feel like every week they're talking about what club he's going to leave next. And I just wouldn't like that. I wouldn't enjoy that. And just City, early for a few years, we would bring in La Masia products who swore they were City through and through. And then 2 years later, they're like, I miss Barca. So I just want players who want to us. Yes.
We went through that with Mbappe. We managed to sign him to an extension, even though he didn't really want to. And we're still dealing with the fallout from that, keeping a player against his will.
Yeah, that was literally the next step to keeping him was making him some sort of politician.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I would be interested in who you think PSG is going to put out for a starting 11.
Ooh. Ali, why don't you start with this one? I got to think about it for a second.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm gonna go with Donnarumma as a keeper. He played over the weekend and he did a good game. Donnarumma is a mystery for me still. I'm trying to figure out if he's a good signing or not, but he's super tall. I don't know, maybe he's 7 or 8 foot. I don't know. He's probably less than that. I'm kidding, but he's staying on his line. He's not going to get the ball. Anyway, it's a subject of conversation for another day, perhaps. But I'll go with Donnarumma regardless. And then I'm gonna go with Hakimi. I'm gonna go with Marquinhos, Pacho, and Nuno Mendes. I'm gonna go with Neves, Zaire Emery, Vitinha. And I'm going to go with Dembele, Ramos, and Barcola.
That's a good side.
I was thinking in my head, that is the exact lineup that I would go with. The only possible change I can think of is if Ramos, if Luis Enrique doesn't want to do the traditional striker, if Ramos goes to the bench and then as the false 9, Desiree Doué potentially in the middle there. He's been getting more playing time early in the season. When he came in, he wasn't seeing much of the pitch. And in recent weeks, he's been playing a little bit more. So if Luis Enrique doesn't go with Ramos as a traditional striker, I could see a player like Doué playing in the middle there. But all the other players, I totally agree with Ali there.
Doué, yeah, man. And I'm I am easily moved by a footballer with good hair, and that's why I love Xavi Simons. I would just love to have that hair bouncing on our squad every single week. Oh my gosh.
I like Barkley. He's got the dreads. I like his look.
Yes.
He's another one.
Oh man, he's a killer. I love similar to Doku. Doku, back before we got him, the thing that I knew, I just felt he was going to be great, but there was a video of him basically explaining his mindset when he plays, and he was like, I want to ruin their lives, obviously not destroy it, but I want to make them miserable. I want them to hate me. I want by the end of the match for them to never wish that they have to face me ever again. And that's what I want to hear, especially from a new player. And so that was the moment that I knew he was absolutely brilliant. I call him and Savio they're our Spice Brothers because they can be on the left and the right, and they bring just a spice and energy to the club that City fans honestly don't know how to feel about it at moments, and in the best way. Like they're just like, oh my god, they're having so much fun. And in pep ball, that can be rigid to some people. They bring so much joy and excitement to kind of prove the doubters wrong.
Yeah, Doku's a hell of a player. I love that mentality you just talked about. I think there was, for a brief moment, he was maybe rumored PSG were interested. I've always rated him highly, and I think he's going to cause PSG all kinds of trouble. He's the type of player that, like I said, on the wing, either left or right, and he could just bomb down there and give PSG all kinds of trouble. If wherever side he's on, Mendes and Hakimi will have their hands full.
Yeah, and quickly, my starting 11. Ederson, he seems to be back. He was dealing with injuries for a while, but he's definitely back and saw his brilliance on Sunday. Our back line, I think it's going to be all size because we don't have Kyle Walker. We've had Nunes, a midfielder, being played as a right wing back, and that is decent, but against a team with the pace and wanting to attack like PSG, I think it'd be silly to put him there. So our back line going from left to right, I think it will be Vardiol, Ake, Diaz, and Akanji. From there, Kovac, a midfield of Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, and KDB. I think either Savio or Doku will start on the left, Foden will be on the right, and then Haaland up top.
Dangerous. And I was talking to another City fan, and they were talking about Phil Foden. Would you say that he's your most informed player right now?
No, Savio. Okay. Honestly, Savio. Savio, he's been fantastic. Him, Foden, he started the season off it, like completely off. Pep gave him, it was actually like a month off when there were rumors that he was dealing with a sickness, flu, something maybe possibly very serious and dangerous. Maybe it was like home problems, things like that. But and he even was talking about it. Like even when he would talk post-match, he just seemed so melancholy. This last match, he was like, I feel good. The team feels good. The energy's good. He's now starting to speak on a higher. His pressing, his defensive part of his game, which used to be his best, that is still struggling. But he has an eye for goal now. He's starting to score. He's starting to run into open space, which he wasn't doing that. He, in the next couple of weeks, I mean, this game could be what makes him the most informed.
Yeah.
But he's on the upward trend, which makes us thrilled because he has to be our best player along with Haaland if we expect to lift any trophies this season.
A lot of good players on the pitch on Wednesday, that's for sure. It's hard to predict this one. I know we're going to get to predictions, but I don't know. It's tough.
I'm having chills. You know, when you were going through your starting 11, I was, damn, that's a good team that they have.
Yeah, we're blessed. And like Bernardo Silva, who's been playing a lot of football, he was rested yesterday. So that makes me super hopeful. Vardiol, he also was able to get a little bit of rest, and Diaz, he's back from injury. I know he's ready to prove himself. This club has struggled with injuries a lot, and now we're starting to get the players back, and we're seeing it. Pep, all he kept saying was, I just need to get my players back. I need to get my players back. And supporters didn't want to hear that because they were like, no amount of players is going to save us from these like falling apart like we would in matches. And it does appear that that's what it is. It's during the holiday time, there was a month where we were only playing one game a week as opposed to 3 games in a week. That rest was key. And I think that was kind of the biggest thing because you could tell they just were, they're so tired of running. And the way that Pep's style is, you're doing a lot of running. And if your legs aren't there, your legs aren't there.
Yeah, it's crazy that, you know, if there is a loser in this match, that team may not qualify for the next round.
I know.
With as much quality in both of these teams, it's it's crazy, but it's also why we love football. That anything can happen. But yeah, one of these teams, whoever is the loser, if there is one, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Isn't it weird to say that, Man City, even PSG will, fight on Wednesday for a place to stay in the new Champions League format? We could have this conversation like 2 months ago, maybe 3. And said, well, no big deal. Don't you worry. We'll make it happen because we are PSG or we are Man City. And now look at us. We're fighting and struggling. And then, losers will be extremely unhappy on Wednesday, depending on the other results, right?
Yeah, and that's why everyone's going to be watching this game, as we talked about at the Open. Like, these are the two of the most hated teams. Everyone wants to tune in so they can fire up the Farmers League memes and everything else, and whatever memes for City, the oil, whatever. And people want to see one of these teams lose and get knocked out. That's for sure.
Most definitely.
So many haters. Come on, man. Let's prove them wrong tomorrow.
That's right.
Wednesday.
Looking for a draw.
Honestly, right? Okay, well, let's end here with score predictions. How do you see this match going?
Ooh. I believe it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an easy game. I don't see like a 3-4, 5-0. I don't see that at all. I see a very tough game with a 1-0 kind of thing. Hopefully on the PSG side, of course, I'm going to have to pick with my heart here. But yeah, 1-0 and I'll be happy. However, 1-0 might not just be enough to qualify. Goal average is something that is super important with this new format. So the more goals you're going to score, the better. However, we're playing Man City, right? So we need to be conscious that it's not going to happen. But again, my score prediction 1-0, and we get the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a PSG supporter, so I'm going to go 2-1. I think City are going to score. It's going to be off a set piece, and it's probably going to be Erling Haaland. I think he's going to score. PSG, we talked about their goal scoring issues. They create a ton of chances, and I just hope with their back up against the wall at home in front of their supporters, it could be the last home Champions League game of the season. I hope that is enough for them to convert 2 of the scoring chances that they will create. Maybe it's Dembele, maybe Hakimi can get on one, maybe it's Barcola. I just have to believe that they can get the job done and score 2 goals. So I'll go 2-1 to PSG.
Yeah.
What about you?
And as a City fan, I can't say we're going to lose. We are in a better spot when it comes to like goal difference. If we win, we are I think we're 16th. Obviously, other teams have to play and lose, but we actually will be in the top 16 to try to make it. Whereas even if PSG win, I think you're right outside. I think you'll be like 18th best.
Yeah.
And so a lot will have to go into it, which I think will feed into us because PSG, like you said, Olivier, you got to play. You got to try to score. And that, in theory, should feed into us. Peps was very angry with his side because when the game is open and teams are kind of playing back and forth, there was apprehension. They were scared to kind of play in that space because what if we then lose the ball and we give up such easy goals on the counter? These last couple of matches, they haven't had that fear. They're going, no, we believe that we will score in this time, in this space. And that's what I want to see. I think there will be plenty of opportunities to not necessarily score on a break because that's not our game, but when there's transition, how will we take that on? And if we can be brave and play into that, we should win. And I think we should win easily just because, again, playing at home in a match like this, I don't think that's an advantage for PSG. I think it's going to be very tough for these players, especially if they don't start off on the front foot immediately.
If they go down a goal, I can see it being difficult. Absolutely. And Pep's a smart manager. He would have seen PSG's performances in the Champions League, and he'll know to use Erling Haaland's height, use your physicality, get into the box. And it may not be the way you traditionally play, but that is probably, Arsenal put the blueprint out on how you beat PSG. And you can do it pretty easily. We cannot defend set pieces, not in Champions League, not even in Ligue 1. A fifth-tier French team scored against us. So, we just can't defend it.
The one thing I said was tomorrow, both teams would have to be clean. It's okay to have one cases or occasions one, but you're gonna have to be clinical. And so needless to say that we hit the post so many times, and
Post Saint
that
Germain.
post Saint Germain, you got it. That we're gonna have to be so clinical in scoring these goals, because if we miss, then I already know what's gonna happen. We're gonna overthink it, regardless of being at home or not. It's gonna play against us. And I heard what you just said. The one thing I'm going to say from a positive note is that the fans and the supporters in Paris will give their 1,000%. So I'm actually looking forward to see the tifos. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen for that game from a stands perspective. I'll be with the ultras, singing, cheering, yelling, whatever you want, but celebrating, let's say. But I'm actually looking forward to the ambience in Parc des Princes.
Yeah, the tifos are always good on Champions League nights. It's a good supporters. Yeah, if you've never seen a home PSG match in the Champions League, it is something special.
Yeah,
I'm jealous, Ali. You'll be there.
We'll be here on FanFest hosting a watch along. So yeah, we'll be. Well, I say we. It'll just be me. My show bros will be working. Midweek matches, I always do them all alone. So. Yeah, I will be here yelling at my television, yelling at the screen, yelling at my TV, recording myself, hopefully positive things. But yeah.
I have a feeling we're all going to be doing that at times. We'll all be screaming. It's going to be a nervous match. I don't know how much I'm looking forward to it. I just kind of want it to be over, but it should be good. It'll be fun.
What we should do? We should do a debrief game, a debrief show, like reconnect the three of us and see if we were wrong or right, and see what should happen. Again, I'm just throwing it out there, just to see who's happy, not happy, and what happened.
I'm down.
I like it.
Yeah, and okay, before we go, because this will cut out. Can Olivier? I added you on Instagram. But if both of you can send me your starting 11 predictions so I can make a graphic for social media and all that other stuff.
Yeah, we'll do.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll do for sure. And since it's a joint show, let's go with commercials. Let's again. What are the Instagrams, and go for it. Share with everybody. Go you Ed or Crunk. You guys go ahead, and I'll share mine after.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. You can find me at PSG Talk. We're everywhere. Instagram, X. Find us there, PSG Talk.
And we are Shades of Blue NW. Shades of Blue NW. If we're on a social media app, that's where we are.
For me, so you see my personal, but I'm also I'm from Canada. So all social forums as well, and also with Parisian Londoner. So I'll be with them on Wednesday. We're going to do a lot of content around Parc des Princes. So find us, Parisian Londoner, all the big platforms as well. So looking forward to connect with everybody. Will be at the game, and I saw that Kate was on the chat as well. Already connected with her. We're probably going to do some content while we'll be at Parc des Princes. So I'm excited to meet a new supporter.
Yeah, they're great people. We love those two. So yeah, connect with them. All right. Well, we'll get out of here. We will chat soon. I would love to do like a review thing. So we'll stay and connect. We will see you all soon. Thank you, Olivier. I appreciate you, Ed. Thank you for coming through and chatting. See everybody soon. You know the vibes. Shady gang, shady gang. Shady gang.